This episode of the Culture Soup podcast is brought to you by the Center for Workforce Excellence. Veteran Fortune 500 executive and executive coach Trudy Bourgeois is offering not one, but 5 of her latest books for giveaways on the Culture Soup podcast. The name of the book, Equality: Courageous Conversations about Women, Men, and Race to Spark a Diversity and Inclusion Breakthrough. What do you have to do to get one of these books? Well, I want you to listen to the episode with Trudy and I in our conversation about authenticity. It's one in several of a series called Authentically She during the month of March for Women's History Month. First, you'll need to answer a trivia question. After listening to this episode, you'll need to go to my website at lmichellesmith.com, sign up for the newsletter, and the first 5 people to answer the question correctly will win one of the books. But now it's time for our show. Hey y'all, this is Culture Soup, where tech, culture, and business collide. It's a podcast that spoons up everything hot from social media. I'm your host, L. Michelle Smith, and each episode we bring you some of the most notable and not yet notable thought leaders in tech, business, and culture. The year was 2005, and I received a call from the Proline Corporation to my agency, M Strategies, Inc. Proline was one of the biggest names in black hair care at the time. It was family owned. In fact, I went to school with one of the Sheryls at TCU. But I knew that whoever called my agency knew exactly what they were doing. We were all about media training, messaging, and media strategy and integrated marketing. As it turns out, there was a Harvard Business School alumni that had learned a bit about my agency and myself from an article in the Dallas Morning News the Sunday before. This high-ranking CPG executive was the one behind the call. Her name, Sheryl Adkins-Green. Sheryl would become our biggest client at some point. Proline would be acquired by Alberto Culver. Eventually, it would be bought by Unilever. But in the meantime, we were hired to support the entire portfolio of multicultural hair care products for Alberto Culver. It was during this time period that I learned something that would set the course for the back half of my career, nearly 15 years later. At some point, Sheryl needed our help in reaching biracial and multiracial families with little girls who were mixed heritage for a product called Just For Me Texture Softener. When the data was shared with us from the research that Alberto Culver had done, we learned that the hair care industry was beginning to look at the browning of America through the curl patterns in people's hair. Full stop. That's meta. Remember, this was about the year 2006, 2007. This was after the 2000 census had actually been released. And we learned then that the most checked box was the other box. Marketers were not looking at segmentation in this way. This was new. Well, we helped launch Just For Me Texture Softener. We literally won awards for that launch. I and my team learned so much from the marketing team at Alberto Culver, and Sheryl was key to that. Sheryl and I, over the years, became friends. And ultimately, her path would lead her to, I think, a role that was just for her. Sheryl became the Chief Marketing Officer at Mary Kaye Cosmetics. I'm not going to hold you very much longer. You need to meet her, but I am thrilled that she is the first episode in our series, Authentically She, for Women's History Month. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheryl Adkins-Green. All right, everybody, I have Sheryl Adkins-Green. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at Mary Kaye, and I'm sure you're very familiar with that brand, familiar with the pink, and you probably have a neighbor or a colleague or a church member or someone who has tried to or successfully sold you Mary Kaye products, and they are the most awesome products that you can use. They've been around for a long time. Hi, Sheryl.
Hey, Michelle. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us on the Culture Soup. And you know what? Mary Kaye is one of those brands that just exudes women's empowerment. Wouldn't you agree?
Most definitely. We are truly a company that was built by a woman for women.
Absolutely. And you know, I think it's no mistake that you wound up there, because that has always been your essence, Sheryl, to pull up other women and empower them along their career journey.
It's definitely a dream job, and could not be happier.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to tell the good folks how we met a little bit later, but first, how about we have a Culture Soup moment?
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. So as I'm looking through the threads, you know, there's always something online where women are encouraging one another, especially in the positive sense. And one of the hashtags that I wanted to use to tee up our conversation was #BossLady. Because when I see it, I think of you, Sheryl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So when you see people use hashtags like Boss Babe or Boss Lady or Boss, what does it make you think, and how does it make you feel?
Well, I always get excited about women being entrepreneurs, and certainly love to celebrate women who are running their own show, running their own business. And so when I see those tags, for me, it's not only a woman taking charge of her financial future, but really taking charge of her personal development.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. And you know, Sheryl, when I met you, it was before you were part of Mary Kaye. You were at what was then Alberto Culver. I think Unilever bought them, right?
Correct.
And you were living that out. And you were, I know, because you took a special interest in my agency.
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, it was exciting to tap your creativity, and I'll say tap your courage, because entrepreneurs are fearless in the pursuit of trying something new, doing something different, and that was an exciting opportunity for me as we were thinking about how to build some very powerful hair care brands.
Yes, ma'am, and so it's really exciting to see you land at Mary Kaye some years later, and you've been there how many years now? 6, 7?
You know, I just celebrated 10 years,
Woo!
which is a very important milestone at Mary Kaye.
Time flies. Now, wait, that actually coincided with the Mary Kaye Ashe anniversary?
Well, I tell you, we celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2013, and then just this past fall celebrated 55 years.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so that actually just lines up perfectly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You are killing it, and every time I look up, you're globetrotting.
Well, you know, Mary Kaye is in nearly 40 countries, so
yes.
Part of my role is to support the success of the independent sales force, so I go where they go.
That's so awesome, and you're so inspiring. I listed you just recently in an interview that I did with some folks over in the UK as one of the folks that actually inspires me, who's in marketing. So I hope some other ladies get to know you as they listen, and men too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about a topic that we've covered before for Black Enterprise, and that is authenticity in the workplace, especially as it pertains to women of color. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed, Sheryl, through the years of knowing you, that you have been dedicated to your most authentic self for years now. But I have to say, since you've been at Mary Kaye, I've seen even more of you.
Well, I don't really know how to be anyone else other than me. Mm-hmm. I certainly, though, have learned that it is challenging when you're trying to navigate in a corporate culture that is maybe looking for you to be something different and perhaps even something a little less than who you really are. So definitely love the fact that Mary Kaye, everyone is encouraged to really bring their whole selves, and that's what makes this such an exciting place to work.
That is awesome, where they automatically embrace femininity and womanhood. That's not the case in all the corporations, and I know some of them try. But do you have advice for women who are trying to be their best self, walk in their own skin, walk tall, and also be in an environment that may not be as warm?
Yeah, I think my first piece of advice, and I think we've probably all seen the magnet or seen the coffee mug, and that advice is to get out of your own way. And by that I mean too often in a corporate role, I do think people of color, often women, but it could be anyone, sometimes start to worry about limitations that perhaps don't even exist. So I think success really starts with having confidence that you were hired for a reason, you were hired to bring value, and that's really where you should be focused and not be self-limiting, if you will, on when again that doesn't really serve you well, and it doesn't serve the enterprise well.
Right. So you bring up a really good point. Get out of your own way, and sometimes there are notions that we may have when it comes to obstacles that may not actually exist, but we've heard before that they could. How do you ground yourself? Do you have people that you rely on, or do you do some positive self-talk? What do you do?
Well, I have to say, working at Mary Kaye is a very inspiring experience, in part because Mary Kaye Ashe herself was such an inspiration. Mm-hmm. She, throughout her career, learned how to motivate people, to really pour belief into people. So even before I came to work here, I was always inspired by her leadership principles and really feel that I've been a student of how do you motivate others, how do you encourage them to be their best and to stretch just a little bit farther. So I think, coming back to your question, Michelle, one of the things that individuals need to do as they coach themselves is to remember how they got where they are. They are where they are because someone hired them, because they were there with a resume and a recommendation about what they've accomplished. They were there because they have ideas around how to make an enterprise more successful, how to serve a customer base more effectively. If you think about it, they wouldn't have been hired if they already had someone better to do that job. And so I think they have to go back to why they are there and have confidence that they can and will make that difference.
Absolutely. And I spend time talking to women, men, mentees all the time about performance excellence and how that's the foundation to even begin to bring your whole self. Do you agree?
I do, and I would call those table stakes. I think above and beyond coming prepared to do the job or to perform the role that you were hired for, you also want to be looking for how are you going to perform for the role that you want next, the role that you deserve next. And I think sometimes people might get a little distracted wondering what others might be thinking of them as opposed to showing what they are capable of. And I think if you take some of the energy that perhaps goes into worry and fear, rechannel that energy into making a difference, into being an advocate for yourself. And you'll find that quickly the right people, the people who care about results, will pay attention.
you would actually stand out and be more successful if you were just Sheryl?
I think many years ago, in one of my first companies, Kraft Foods, I had entered the organization with my Harvard MBA and certainly all my hard work and late nights. And there's a point in your career where working hard and delivering your goals will get you that next promotion. But then there comes a point in corporate America where the organizational hierarchy starts to get a little bit more narrow. And at that point, you realize everyone has advanced because they're pretty bright and smart and achieving goals. And that's when you realize you have to have that point of difference. And that point of difference is not only what you do, but how you get it done. And that's the point I realized that my ability to succeed and advance and achieve some of the professional goals that I had were really going to be a function of the unique leadership style, the unique managerial skills that I could bring to a role above and beyond great results.
Yes. So, Trudy Bourgeois, and I'm sure you know her. She's with
I
the
do.
ELC. Yes. She's also in the series, and she talks about the importance of knowing who you are, first of all. Because before you can even bring your full self to the table, you have to know exactly who you are. Where did you get that foundation? When did you, who poured into you, the knowledge of self? Or was that a self-discovery or what?
Oh, I will certainly say that I had a number of wonderful role models. And I have to say, even folks who weren't great role models also taught me something about how not to do things in a leadership capacity. I did have one terrific mentor at Kraft Foods. Her name is Paula Sneed. She was very much a role model and mentor, not only to me, but to others. And I definitely give her so much credit for not only inspiring me as a business leader and executive, but also being that role model of how to mentor, how to concurrently lead in an organization while also making a difference in the community. So while I've learned from many, she certainly stands out.
And Sheryl, you know what? You're not one-dimensional. You're also a mom and a wife,
Yes,
right?
I am.
How do you juggle everything?
Well, the whole concept of work-family balance is not something that you necessarily achieve every day
Right.
or sometimes every week. I did figure out early on, balance is really about knowing what's most important and when. So certainly, while there have been windows that demanded more time and attention professionally, I also recognize those moments, whether it was in my role as a wife, as a mom, when I had to leave a meeting in Manhattan and jump on a train and go grab some cupcakes really fast and make it to the classroom for the birthday party. But that's really, I think, what balance is about. Knowing what's most important to the people who are most important to you, both inside the office and out.
And for women, how important is it to have an environment that embraces all of you and every dimension of you as a mother, as a wife, and not just the exec?
Well, what's interesting, we talked briefly about Mary Kaye Ashe. When she formed this company, she was a mother. She had actually been a single mother earlier in her career, but when she founded Mary Kaye, she was the mother of 3 young adults, and I'm the mother of 2 young adult sons. So what is fascinating, and I think what's resonates with the Mary Kaye opportunity in particular, is that Mary Kaye Ashe really built a company and a culture around her values, those values being faith first, family second, and career third.
I love it.
Certainly, anyone who had the privilege of knowing her knows how hard she worked, but they also know how much she gave and how much she cared about family. And so she really did prove back at an early day back in the 60s and 70s that a woman, I'll say with big quotation marks, can have it all.
Yes.
Again, coming back to that balance of faith, family, and career.
So, Sheryl, what are you guys doing at Mary Kaye right about now that maybe we should know about?
Well, as you know, we always have exciting products. And I think what's more important, though, is just recently we celebrated the success of nearly 8,000 women out in San Diego, California. It was the annual leadership conference. And while we did talk about new products, more importantly, we really talked about success and goals and dreaming bigger. And that, to me, is really the most exciting part of being on the executive team of Mary Kaye, is that opportunity to support dreams, the big dreams of the independent sales force leadership, and now being a part as they take that energy and enthusiasm and pass it forward. Empowered women empower women.
Yes.
And that's really what's most exciting about Mary Kaye.
That's so awesome. So let's talk about that army. I mean, you have a military of women entrepreneurs. That just saying that gets me excited. How do you keep them motivated? We've seen pink Cadillacs. We do know about that. But there has to be more. Just from day to day, how do you keep your sales force charged up?
Well, I have to say the Mary Kaye enthusiasm really has been generated over generations of independent Salesforce members. There are so many exciting stories of success about women discovering their confidence, women achieving goals they never thought might be possible for themselves or for their families, their communities. So the enthusiasm really comes from results, from sharing the stories, from passing on the motivation that they learned from other women. And that's really what I think inspires certainly all of the employees of Mary Kaye. And I think in this day and age, being a part of a community of inspired women that look for the best in people, that make every person feel important. In fact, my favorite Mary Kaye Ashe quote is, picture every person with an invisible sign around their neck that says, make me feel important.
Yeah.
I have found this to be the most powerful, both leadership advice, but also it's been great personal advice.
I love that. That really makes you think about your actions.
Yes,
and it
very
really
much
makes
so.
you think about the other person.
Very much so.
That's really important. So a couple more things. The Culture Soup podcast and it is an extension of me. And while it does refer to social media, it also refers to where my sweet spot is, tech, culture, and business. So the entrepreneur side of me is typically always covered through the stories of my friends. The culture piece of it is very interesting. So I want to touch on that for a bit. Mary Kaye is worldwide.
Yes.
And this motivation that you're talking about translates to multiple cultures. Can you tell me about an experience you had overseas in another country where you were inspired by the women because the spirit of Mary Kaye Ashe and the values translated despite?
Yeah. One of the special opportunities I have is to meet with and speak with women in different Mary Kaye countries, whether that be Asia, Latin America, Europe. I've traveled to Kazakhstan, Ukraine, a lot of fascinating places. And again, the common element, women with a heart that really want to not only help their families and communities, but also help other women. Even though I don't speak many foreign languages, I think there is a language that Mary Kaye independent Salesforce members share that really does cross cultures. I think particularly an inspiring experience was a story that was shared with me just recently when I visited with Mary Kaye, Brazil. And it was the story of a young woman who lived in a very low income economic situation. And in fact, to feed herself and her family, each day had to travel long distances and to sell produce. And just to hear the story of her journey and the toll that it took on her each day. Well, fast forward, the Mary Kaye opportunity was shared with her, and as her Mary Kaye business succeeded and as she formed a team and helped other women, to now see this woman as an independent sales director.
Wow.
With a new lease on life, not only for herself, but for her family and community. And when not only the story, but the photos were shared, those are the moments that inspire me to, again, come back to Dallas and work even harder to think of new and impactful ways to support the independent sales force. And that is literally one of thousands of stories that are happening around the world.
That's
that
awesome.
Transformation.
That is really awesome because, when you think of culture, I always say it's the thing that makes your squad a squad. So the Mary Kaye culture is one in of itself. But to see it translate into other cultures is quite an amazing feat, wouldn't you say?
Yes, Mary Kaye Ashe was truly a visionary, and so many things that she did within her business model that were so innovative, so ahead of her time and the time of business practices. At the time, men thought, she's running the business like a woman, and she was like, yes, exactly.
I love it.
And, her success says it all. You talked, I know you love technology.
Yes.
I know that's one of the things you love to speak on. Well, Mary Kaye Ashe along the way, whether it was creating an e-commerce platform for the independent sales force. Some of the investments we're making recently in terms of apps and ways to really accelerate the efficiency of our business model. These are all things that Mary Kaye Ashe was passionate about being on the forefront, but again, always in support of the success of the independent sales force.
And I'm glad you mentioned tech because I think you came on, I'd say probably 10 years ago, we would be looking at 2008, 2009, something like that. We saw Android hit the market in 2008, and so we got open source, which meant that everybody could have one of these. I'm holding up a phone, right? A smartphone.
Yeah.
One that would not just do emails and small packet data, but they're little computers. So as a chief marketing officer at Mary Kaye, you have probably ushered in some transformation when it comes to your digital and social strategy.
Yeah, we have. We're excited that we have developed some proprietary technology to support the independent sales force. Apps like My Customers Plus, which help her conduct her business literally in the palm of her hand. At our recent leadership seminar, we also announced a new business app. And we also have apps that make it even more easy to try before you buy Mary Kaye products. Things like our Mirror Me app that let you try on makeup virtually.
Wow.
So I can send you some fun new lip colors that you can try on, Michelle.
I love it.
I know you'll have fun with that. Things like our electronic catalog. So we really see technology as an enabler, as a connector, but never a replacement for that face-to-face, that person-to-person connection that really is at the heart of the Mary Kaye direct sales model.
Well, you know what? Yeah. And there's so much about technology, especially the digital realm, that fosters community. And it sounds like to me the Mary Kaye culture really is about community, and there's power in community. Our friend Ted Rubin says that there's power in community. Networks are just your connections, right? But when you
Exactly.
have
Exactly.
community, you've got power. And so it's exciting to see you use digital technology, apps and such, what I call the democratization of the internet. To this very, I mean, this Salesforce it's a democracy. So it makes sense that these two are married. And wow, what amazing things they should be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I love the description community, and it's so much more than a business community. It's a community of sisterhood. It's a community of women who give back to others. I think, Michelle, you've been a great supporter of the Mary Kaye Ashe Foundation and the work that it's doing to both end domestic violence as well as find cures to cancers that impact women. Just yesterday, being World Cancer Day, was a day that the Mary Kaye community raised our voices in support of the good work that the foundation is supporting financially through grants to various institutions that are really carving a trail toward cures that impact women with cancer. So awesome. It's a powerful community that's making a difference in the lives of so many more than just the Mary Kaye customer base.
What do you want women to know, that are listening right now, if they're wondering if they can be empowered to do their own thing, whether it's to be a Mary Kaye sales rep or not, just to go out and be that boss lady?
Well, I think one of the things that, again, it's important for people, particularly women, to remember is that basically all things are possible. They sure might take work and effort, but one of the most motivating stories that Mary Kaye Ashe would tell is the story of the bumblebee, which aerodynamically should not be able to fly. But the bumblebee doesn't know that, and the bumblebee just keeps on flying. Yes. And so that is just a power symbol of what can be accomplished. So it really begins with the belief in oneself. And I often say to others, if you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to believe in you? And so often people are seeking external validation before they have completed, I'll say, that self-validation step. So it starts with you. And I think we all know those folks who have the swagger, they walk into the room, they're owning their bold, they own their confidence. It starts there. And I think that every woman is capable of owning her bold.
I love it. What a message for Women's History Month, Sheryl Adkins-Green. Listen, how can we follow you on Instagram? First of all, on the internet. Let's cover off on Mary Kaye first. Where can we go to learn more about Mary Kaye, and then we'll cover off on Sheryl's handles.
Okay. Well, you can certainly find Mary Kaye on Facebook. You can find Mary Kaye on Twitter at Mary Kaye, and on Instagram it's at Mary Kaye US. And we also have a blog that has a lot of great information about the work of the foundation. So you can look for at Mary Kaye Cares and also Mary Kaye Global if you want all the big news from around the world.
And you have a wonderful team. I've actually met a few of them at the Brand Innovators events and became friends. Yes. So great team. Yes. And I love the way they engage. If you tweet Mary Kaye US, chances are they'll respond.
We're going to be on it. And then for me personally, I use Shery, A-G, and I spell Shery, S-H-E-R-R-Y, A-G for Adkins-Green. And Shery was just a family name that I had as a child, and I chose that because on social media, I like to share a little bit of me in addition to what I share as the Mary Kaye CMO.
And you do that very well. It's so important, and this speaks to authenticity. So important to show more of you than just your brand that you represent. So that's so important. You know what? I hear congratulations are in order. Am I going to see you at Women of Power?
Yes, you are, Michelle. Looking forward to it.
So a little birdie told me that you're among the most powerful women in corporate America.
Very, very honored to be named by Black Enterprise with a very distinguished group of other people who are also being honored. But yes, I'm very excited and looking forward to the event.
I'm so proud of you, Sheryl. You just keep killing it. I love it. And I'll see you there in Las Vegas.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
Isn't Sheryl just the best? She's one of my favorite people out there. Coming up next, week 2, episode 2 of our series, Authentically She, for Women's History Month. And I'm bringing on the incomparable Trudy Bourgeois from the Center for Workforce Excellence. She is also a member of the ELC like all of these ladies are, but she is an incredible executive coach. You don't want to miss a word she has to say. And by the way, we are giving away those books. So be sure to sign up on the website. There's a pop-up that will show the cover of the book. Put your email address in, and then you'll receive the newsletter with the first trivia question. There'll be one a week, so you will have 5 chances to win. So make sure that you sign up, get the newsletter, answer the trivia question, try to be the first to answer for a chance to win one of her books, Equality, Courageous Conversations About Women, Men, and Race to Spark a Diversity and Inclusion Breakthrough. Trudy's only the second in the series. After that, Cheryl Grace, Powerful Penny, and also Senior Vice President at Nielsen. Follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at The Culture Soup, also on Facebook, and you can log on online at theculturesoup.com. See you next week. The Culture Soup Podcast is a production of No Silos Communication.